Well, good morning to Uber Tuber Ubers and Tuberettes alike. It's a short talk in the trailer park. Notice the trailer beside me with an old guy, and so we know who that guy would be now, don't we? Come on in, sit down, and you're welcome, and I'm glad you came by. It's a Saturday morning, and I've got the day off from work, and I don't have any side jobs to do today, so that's kind of nice. I have, still off the wagon, I have, of course, that same dry throat. Go figure. So I'm gonna have to keep taking swigs of water, I'm afraid. Anyway, how rude. I just wanted to kind of chit chat with you some. It kind of unburdened my heart, I guess you'd say. I've seen two or three vids in the last couple of days that are just, I would say, deeply disturbing. At least to me. And so I don't want to scare anybody. I don't want to be a fear monger or anything like that. But by golly, the changes that are coming in this United States of America, the land that I knew of as a boy, I think no longer exists. We have something new, it's something different, and it's not better, by the way. It's it's sort of this quasi-Marxist fascist thing, I guess. According to Jonah Goldberg, he said in one of his books that it was actually Joseph Stalin who concocted the idea that the Nazis were far, far to the right, whereas the communists, that's him, was to the left, right and left. So he's the one that set up this right-left idea that Nazis are far right, but actually they're kind of like two peas in a pod. They're just intertwined almost. But anyway, we're looking at a kind of a fascistic, Marxist takeover in this land. And the thing is that it almost doesn't matter at this point who gets elected. Now, I definitely believe Donald Trump would be far and away the better candidate. Is he perfect? Of course not. But the other choice is clearly a Marxist, a communist duo. And they do not mean us well. Things do not bode well for the America you knew once these two take power, because there's been so much loss of freedom and so much increase of C-ship, if you know what I mean, from big tech, that the platforms, people are beginning to believe that there's only a few voices out there, people who are still kind of paying attention. And boy, the flies are out this morning. They're all over the place. So anyway, the thing is that we have a serious situation brewing, and Scott Ritter in a interview with Danny Haiphong, go watch it. Mark Driscoll, he's got an interview with a young guy. The title of that one's called "Is America Doomed?" Nice, happy thought. But these videos, when you consider the dreadfulness of the consequences of an actual nuclear war breaking out, and how little the so-called authorities appear to care, it's rather shocking. You must conclude, I believe, if you're going to keep working with something like reason in your head, that they want us dead. Consider that. Those who have been elected to power in this land have an agenda, and it's not too awfully quiet. It's not that hard to figure out. Go look at the fibrous matter that's building up, clotting in arteries and veins all over the world. Only since when? Oh, about 4 years ago. And so the thing is that these morticians and the guys who work with stiffs, they can't even embalm bodies because this stuff is too thick. So they have to actually go in there and physically remove this stuff, and it's more than gelatinous. It's almost springy, almost like rubber. And they pull out long pieces of it right out of main arteries and stuff, and even right around the heart, huge ones. And so the thing is all this has gone on. Well, guess what? That's called big tech, and that's called progress, and that's called science. And you can't fight that. It's good for you. It doesn't matter what anyone says, and it doesn't matter what the death numbers are. You've got to trust the science, and that means trust the government, right? And so that's really what we learned 4 years ago, and this led to some pretty dramatic increases in power, civil, social, and able to reach in through the interweb to mingle and meddle with people. The government has grown outrageously, and it continues to grow as this monstrosity. It's rather like a cancer on the body. The cancer wants to live, but at the expense of the body. So when the body dies, the cancer dies. So the government is very much like that. It lives to live. It grows to grow. It doesn't care about right or wrong. It can't. The only thing it's considering is the growth, the consolidation, and the expansion of its own power. That's all it ever thinks about. And so, I mean, the government. And so we've got to understand we have no friend in the government as far as Christians go. And in fact, it's going to start heating up for Christians here in this land. There's already rumblings and mumblings about things that do not look well in terms of, lawsuits and whatnot. But the point is that courage and strength and valor in the Lord, that's part of the good news. And so, in other words, if your ambition is to, I want to be more like Jesus, well then hold on tight to that ambition. Don't let go, because the other option is going to present itself as, I just want things to go back to normal. I'm so tired of this bizarre situation. I just want things to work day by day like they always have. That's going to be the plea. People will want, demand, scream for normality. And actually, normality is behind us now. We're into new turf. We're a terra incognita. We're in another world, in a sense. This place is run by demons. And the idea is that the humans who are top dog, the big shots, they're closer to them. That's how they maintain their rule. We're talking about occultic practice. We're talking about witchcraft on the rise. We're talking about a whole host of spiritual, disease. And the thing is that all of this is being spread across the land, and we're ending up with all kinds of disgusting manifestations. And we've discussed some of those things on this program. But I mean, if you want to know, I was talking to some people the other day. I said, here's a Christian idea. How about Christians band together and communicate with each other and say, in effect and in reality, to the school board, you will not show my children that pornography. You will not expose my child to that drag queen storyteller. In other words, the parents, as Christians rising up as a majority and changing society, could it happen? I think it could, but I don't foresee it happening at all. The church appears to be not only asleep, but willfully so. She appears to be not only unable, but has no desire to see what's before. We're looking at times like none have ever seen. I tell you, this is the end of the earth, the end of the age, the end of our world. Except it could be only the death of a nation, the death of an empire. But I think they're linked in time. I think that the US of A and the West is essentially the Babylon that the Lord calls his people to flee. Come out of Babylon, my people, lest you partake of her judgments on your head. And so I believe that the whole kind of Western progress, we have Australia, we have maybe Japan, toss them in. We've got all of Europe, we've got US of A, maybe Canada. In other words, this thing, I believe, well might be the Babylon of the Bible. And that means judgment is upon the land. The church needs to be able to say this and to say why. It is because of the sins of our leaders, including our Christian leaders. Our Christian leaders have the job of being watchmen on the wall to warn the flock of coming danger and of things that are going to destroy their well-being. And we need to insist upon that in the church as well. In other words, many of the biggest problems that we have now in this society today is because the church has been unwilling and unable to get involved socially, to connect with the people that live around her, to speak in some sort of way of redemptive goodness in the land, such that new policies are designed and fairness and justice prevail and righteousness is known, and people can rest in the knowledge that there is a God, not a God, the God, and he is the one who has presented himself very clearly in the scriptures, and no thanks to man. The Bible has retained its integrity for several thousand years now. There's really nothing quite like it. It's the book. And so go read some today. Find a reason to get down and get serious to pray. And I confess to the Father that my faith is weak. but my desire is to be more like Jesus. And I think that's going to be something like our strategy in coming days. Because as things collapse, economically or socially or whatever, you'll find that more and more you're going to feel isolated, that you're cut off. You're not. It only feels that way. It's a lie. So work to remember, try to remember that He is with us day by day, hour by hour, hour by hour. And when we do not know it, that doesn't change a thing. We have to be able to confide in Him our fears and our version of truth. Correct me where I'm wrong, Father. And we confide in Him. I confide my belief that this thing called Western civilization is basically over. We're looking at something new, and it doesn't look good at all. It's some sort of weird globalist thing that has to do with international powers, and I mean, talk about you becoming a peon in your own land. It's the end of freedom is what they're broadcasting and triumphing and shouting about, as if it was so utterly progressive. They want to destroy freedom. They want to destroy free speech, because free speech is a gift of God. It is a right of God. That's what our framers said. But the reason that free speech was invented was to praise the Lord, was to declare His glory in the land and His honor among the nations. Jesus Christ, King forever, King of our hearts, King of my life. He's the one who's changing things, and we need Him as our leader and our guide in our hearts. So I guess that's kind of what I wanted to say today. It's going to be a rough, weird ride, and I'm not promising anybody anything, but I'm telling you this, going into it, He knows what we can take, and He won't push you beyond what you can handle. But He will try us to the uttermost to prove that the sterling character that He has planted within us is actually functioning. And He will see the good fruits of His work in our lives when we prove fruitful. So that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that we need to be involved with Him. We need to be involved with each other. We need to be involved with the Bible. We need to be involved with prayer. We need to be involved with confessing the truth in public, declaring that Christ indeed has this entire situation well in hand, and God bless Him for it. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to say, because I watched that Driscoll interview 2 nights ago. Then I watched Danny Haifong. Did I mention the Driscoll interview? I hope I did. Go see Is America Doomed? Mark Driscoll, and he's interviewing a young guy. Oh, you got to see it. Danny Haifong is interviewing Scott Ritter on what's going on with Putin and the Ukraine thing. It's sobering. It is sobering indeed to realize how far down the toilet the U.S. of A. has already fallen, and almost nobody knows it. This is not the same nation I grew up in, and we're going to be seeing a lot of real trouble as this new thing manifests, because it's not even human. Its origins are from below. So we need wisdom, and we need courage, and we need fortitude. All the good things He promises, that's what we ask for, and He's good to give. He ain't slack neither. God bless you, and have a good day.